Okay, so we are beginning the second one. Be very welcome to those who were not in the first communication with Martin. As you can read on the screen, my name is Marco, and I work as a tour guide of Extremadura, the region where I live in Cáceres. Although in Spain we are regional guides, and Martin told me to come over and talk about techniques and skills to be a good guide. So I have to look it up in the internet because I don't know how to be a good guide. So I have to look up to some other experiences, because sometimes you work and you are not conscious of what you do and if what you do is good or not. So I have to admit I have to look up for several things in order to be conscious of what I do and trying to compare with my everyday work. A work I've been doing in the last 19 years. I began to be a guide in 1999. Although I've always had the feeling I've always been a guide, especially because my father was a tour guide too. So I still remember myself walking in the street with my father, and I love to go with him and go and do the tours with him. And I suppose this was my mirror, let's say that way. My father was from where I learned if we can call it the job of being a tour guide. So just a few things. You feel free to ask me wherever you want. That's what I'm here for. Maybe I can answer your questions if you are not familiar with what we do every single day. And I've just wanted to do the sort of speech to do with the things we need to do for being a good guide, and that we try to do, not always with a great result, but we do our best. And I think that the first thing and the most important one is that we need to be patient. We have to be really patient. Oh my God, what happened? I hope there's not an accident.
But no, it's the end.
Is it the end? ¿Qué drama eres? La madre que te parió, qué susto me ha dado.
Yeah, because
Hay que retirar.
No está ardiendo un coche.
or perhaps they do it at their speed.
They are celebrating.
Yeah.
They are celebrating.
Okay, great.
¿No ves cómo subimos para arriba? ¿No ves? Dice humo.
Makes too many stuff.
So if you don't mind, we go on. I told you that this is, to me, the most important thing about being a guide, that we should be really patient. We have to have patience. And sometimes you feel like this is too evident, but sometimes we don't realize of how patient we should be, especially because we never work with the same sort of people. Sometimes we work with old people or elderly people, more and more, by the way, and sometimes we make the great mistake of beginning to speak before everybody's around us. I think that's something we should learn. We should learn to wait until everybody, because otherwise there are many people that might feel apart from the group. So we wait and we begin to talk when we've got everybody around us. And also we have to be patient when there's somebody in the group asking you the same things over and over. So I still remember experiences of people asking me the same thing 3 times, 4 times when I've said it before, or different people asking the same thing when I've just said what they were asking to me. So again, patience, and especially if you think that we work with people from many origins, a lot of origins, so you have to be conscious that not everybody knows what you know, and especially when you are talking about your local history to people coming from other countries, other realities, they shouldn't know what happened in 1563 or in 1755, although it's a widely known date for most of Spaniards. So these are some things that you should think about it, and again, be patient. That's why we always said, with a little bit of humor, that our patron saint the patron saint of tour guides is the Christ of humility and patience. So this is the Christ we pray to for being patient and patient and patience. So this is very common in Spain, by the way. Another thing, I think that we need to be empathetic. That's something we can link with the things I told you before. What is obvious for us might be completely different for other tourists. So you have to talk in a way as if you were talking to children and try to explain everything because it is obvious for you, but maybe it's not for everybody. And being a tour guide is not just reading facts from a sheet. That's what anybody can do. I mean, we have to perform. Our work has more to do with, if we can say theater, rather than being like a machine. This is too boring. So you have to be a little bit more, you have to address, let's say, the story to do with the what you are telling to people. And obviously you have to have the ability to interact with new people every day. So that's something we should be ready with. I mean, we meet people from all over the world and different people every single day, and you have to be ready to try to guess what they are looking for and what they demand from you, which is amazing too, because that's a great way to learn from everybody. But it's true that not everybody is ready to have new people every single day. That's great, especially when you've got back groups that are luckily not very often. Yes?
So it wasn't that you have to interpret a rule for each day?
No, it is actually that although you say the same thing every single day, it should sound as if it's the first time you are telling that thing. So sometimes you feel too much when there's somebody who says the same thing every single day. And it's like if he's actually a little bit boring of his work, but you have to make the effort of sound new and enthusiastic about what you are saying every single day, because the people who are listening to you today are not the same people who were listening to you yesterday. So it might sound real and new, like new for you, as if you were telling something that belongs to you to other people, rather than sound plain, which is too boring and people get lost very easily. That's a problem. And again, be approachable. Sometimes guides have the, to me, defect of feeling themselves like if they are 2 centimeters over the floor or over the floor and like over the people. You have to be close. you should be something close to the people. And be approachable to the people. I mean, you should look like somebody else in the group and not like somebody away from the rest of the people. So that's very important to make the people feel really, really comfortable. What else do we have here? And as I told you before, it should be a combination of performance, memory, and customer service. So we are like hostesses. We should be like multi-purpose people, being to what people need in every single moment, and that's very important. To be approachable and ready for everything that people might demand from you. And also memory, that's obviously very important for our work. But as Martin said this afternoon, sometimes less is more. I mean, you shouldn't become a guide which is like a date machine. Like saying dates and dates and dates and names of people that no one is interested in excepting you, and maybe people who need that specific information. But for the rest of the people, I would say 95% of the people that go to your tours, that information doesn't mean anything. So less is more. That's actually one of the most important things.
I want to say something about this. I believe it's very important because I have a tour company and I work with groups of people who are older.
Yeah.
And they all need to have this information. They want to have information, but at some point they say, okay, but don't tell me too much. I will forget it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think that,
give me numbers, give me stories, and give me
and anecdotes.
Ideas, stories, or something that has happened in the past and it was exceptional.
Funny things are the
Yes,
things that people
yes,
remember
yes,
more.
yes, yes. And this doesn't mean that you lose the quality of the information that you give.
Not at all.
It's the way
Actually,
that you give it. It's
the fact of adapting to every single group, it's one of the smartest things that you can do. You cannot talk the same to a group of teenagers, a group of retired people, or a group of architects. Every single one needs an information, and you should be quick enough that 5 seconds after you meet the group, you know exactly what they need. You should know exactly what they need, and that's what you should give them. I think it's something we get from practicing. I mean, I've been working the last 19 years. I don't remember how I worked when 1999 when I began, but for sure has nothing to do with the way I work now. Probably I'm better than when I was 25 years old, but this is a question of time and being quick enough to know what's the kind of people you've got in front of you. That's all. That's very important. Again, we need to be good communicators. Knowing a lot doesn't mean that you should transmit everything you know, and especially articulate to be understood easily for the people. I mean, if you speak fast and you eat the words, probably the people won't understand you. Actually, you should have a neutral accent when you speak in your language. That's very funny because Spain is a country with a lot of different accents all over the country, and when people listen to us, especially where I come from, where is a region where we've got a really distinctive accent, they usually tell us, where are you from? And I said, I am from here. And they tell me, you don't have the local accent. And the question is that you should learn to have a standard accent in order that everybody understands what you are talking. And the same could be for the languages you speak. Actually, Americans laugh about my accent because they think I speak too British. And I said, I think this is the best accent for being understood by everybody. Maybe for you Americans, my British accent is funny, but Japanese people or Dutch people or Belgian people or German people really appreciate that you've got this neutral accent because English is not their mother tongue. So that helps a lot. Yes?
You are saying, but to be articulate, you have to speak not expensive words?
No, it's not a question about it's not nothing to do with the words you use. It is a question about how you speak clear and slow, no matter which words you are using, okay?
How you pronounce them.
Sorry?
How you pronounce them.
Yeah, that's right. It's not to use, I mean, you can use unusual words, but it is a question of projecting the voice, speak loud, but not really disturbing voice level, and slow and clear.
But what I learned, I don't know if it's right or not, they say we have to use clear words, not expensive words.
Difficult words.
Yes.
But it is a question of the people you work with. But no matter which vocabulary you use, it is a question of speaking clear and loud enough for the people to understand what you say. Then, depending on the group, you will use one word or other words. It doesn't matter, actually.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Maybe a question also.
Yes.
We were in Warsaw,
Yeah, in Poland.
Poland, and we met a guide speaking very fluent Spanish. But it was obvious he has learned in Spain because he was using very bad words.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, we are some Spanish here, but there are some people from America also, from American, Latin American countries that I know they don't like these bad
words.
expressions,
Yeah.
words in the language, public language, and all this. So I thought maybe she's too familiar, too calor.
Yeah. Again, you have to measure which kind of people you are treating with to allow yourself to use those words. But I never recommend to use too colloquial words, because at the end you don't know exactly what the people is gonna take those kind of words. It's too dangerous. It's like something essential. You shouldn't talk about football, religion, politics, and sex. Never, ever. Sorry?
And money.
And money, yeah, true. Yeah. So these are delicate topics that you should skip and go on. I think it's too dangerous. That's what I was telling to you. You should learn how to communicate with large and varying groups of people. You cannot talk the same to a group of teenagers and a group of elderly people, or students coming from the university, or people who are specific. Sometimes you've got groups asking for, we just want to visit the Arab Cáceres, we just want to visit the Roman Merida, we just want to visit the natural whatever. So you should be ready to vary and change your speech depending on the groups you are working with. And again, I'm actually going ahead to what's written here. You should project the voice clearly. That's very important. If you maybe the group who is in front of you is not going to hear to you. So this is stupid. So yeah, I mean, there are some people who, it's like if they were talking to their bottom here. So you should raise your voice and speak to the people. And very important, never have people behind you. I think that you should always wait for the people to arrive, to put them in a circle, and you are like in the middle so that everybody can see you and can listen to you. And very, very important, never wear sunglasses, never chew chewing gum, and never smoke during a tour. This is one of the worst things you can do while working. It projects an image from you which is really, really terrible. If you have a tour guide smoking, or it is like a little bit disgusting. And even more if you've got sunglasses, because our work has to do with the voice. But I think there's something really important, which is the eye contact. And the eye contact with the people. If people look at your eyes, you make yourself more believed than having a barrier in between you and the people, which is something that I suffer very much because I have clear eyes and I live in a region which is so sun strong, so I really suffer when I have to work, but I never wear sunglasses, although it's good for my eyes because I don't want to have a wall in between myself and the people I'm talking to. That's very important. Command attention. If you have to do a 2-hour tour, you should have tools in order to keep the attention of the people. What do I do? Myself, I usually do like, I change the tone of my voice suddenly. I tell a joke, probably, just to break more or less. Or I just ask to people. I think that's one of the best things. I think that it shouldn't be one-way thing. I mean that you should interact with the people. That's very important. Just for them to make them participants of what you are doing, and not only yourself, like a teacher in a class where everybody's listening to you and nobody says anything. I think that's a very important thing about our work. I have nightmares with this. The day I will bore people, I will leave my job. I think that people are on holidays most of the times. They want to have a fun experience. Please don't bore on people. I think that's terrible. That's one of the things we shouldn't admit to ourselves. What Martin said this afternoon, less can be often more when information is concerned. Don't say too many things to people, or at least try to scale or measure what you say depending on the group you've got opposite to you. I think that's very important. And brevity, again, if people want more, they will ask. That's something you should know too. I mean, again, we interact. We say the essential, although again, it depends on the group you've got. And if people are really interested, they probably will ask you more, and you will have time to tell everybody what somebody has asked you. That's very important too. That's great too, because knowing too much is not always positive. Because sometimes we make the great mistake, and I admit I've done it many times, that you know so many things and you want to say those things you know to everybody, that sometimes that's a little bit negative. So you should refrain yourself and again think of the group you've got opposite and adapt your speech to the people you've got. And we have to sell more than sights and sounds. We should show knowledge, history, and especially, and that's why I put it on purpose, in capital letters, stories. I think we are more than tour guides, we are storytellers. And as she was saying before, rather than many historical facts, we should do more and tell people stories, which is at the end what people's gonna remember once leaving the touristical spot where you've been to with them. And you should sound natural rather than being obviously memorized. I don't know if you ever had the experience of going to a monument and you could probably listen to guides with the same tone, like I can say in Spanish, bienvenidos al monasterio de Yuste. Este monasterio fue construido en el siglo XV. La estructura que ven por encima de su cabeza fue construida también en 1498. Si avanzamos un poquito para adelante vamos a ver un cuadro. So you should avoid this kind of which sounds so awful at the end, and especially please avoid to repeat the same words in every single sentence. That's tremendously negative, and people at the end gets a little bit tired about what you are saying. I think that in our work we need to be organized, really organized. That's, I think, one of the key to success as a tour guide. That's great. No one wants to sit around waiting for a guide. We should be always punctual. That's something funny about this, because I work with tourists from all over the world, and every single country has a different interpretation of what be punctual. For a Spanish group, if you are 1 minute after the fixed hour, there's nothing wrong, because they will be 10 minutes late. So that's not a problem. I don't know if the same happens in Greece or in Italy. So I think it has something to do with Mediterranean climate. But if you work with Japanese people and the meeting time is 9:30 and you are not in there at 9:25, the tour guide is calling to you, where the hell are you? Because they are waiting for you, and they don't understand that if they say 9:30, we'll be there 9:30, but 5 minutes before, for them and for their way of understanding things, you should be there 10 or 15 minutes before. That's why Japanese how do you say, travel companies, as they know as we behave in Spain, they begin to say that meeting hour is probably 9:15, when actually we are beginning 9:30, because they want us to be there 9:15 and not 9:30. I think I thought I was, sorry? Is that better? Okay. The tourist experience should feel effortless and seamless, which means that you shouldn't show that you are making a great effort to do what you are doing, and especially you should show people that what they are doing is nothing really hard to do. You should always be positive. When people tell you, do we have many stairs? You should say less than it actually is, because I think that we should do that. Some people say you should say more than it actually is, so when things arrive, people say, well, it wasn't that hard as you said. But I prefer to say to people, don't worry, you're going to be able to do it, and at the end nothing happens. But if you say to people, no, it's horrible, don't come, there are many stairs, many slopes down, go and down, they will never come. So you have to encourage people to do the tour and try to make things effortless. We should be like, how do you say, these people who read the future in a bowl?
Fortune teller.
Fortune teller, thank you very much. So we should be a little bit of fortune tellers and know how to solve problems before clients even know there is a problem. It happens many times when you arrive to a monument and suddenly you see at the end the doors closed and you go into panic and you don't know what to do. So you actually made as if nothing has happened. You pass by the monument, you go to another place, and you are coming back in 15 minutes. So people shouldn't know there's something wrong in the tour. So you should be quiet and feel confident in order to make the things to look great and not showing to the people that there's a big problem, because that actually makes the people to feel nervous. So that's something which is not great for our work. We need to be practical and sensible. I think that's also very, very important. As it says in here, all your efforts will be in vain if the tourist's needs are not catered. What does it mean? If you're in a group and you are in the middle of the square, 0 degrees Celsius, and you are talking to people things, and one day that happened to me, there was a man coming and said, listen, what you are telling to us is really nice, but it's freezing cold. Why don't we go out there? We are going to see the same thing, but we will be protected, sheltered, and we will be better. Or don't forget that we work with people who had other toilet needs. So I think that you should have these in account in order to do to the important thing first. I mean, you should take people to the toilet, because if they don't go to the toilet and they have to listen to you like this, so it is not like, it's not like a big thing. So I think, and even more when we work with elderly people that usually need to go to the toilet, and once they have gone to the toilet, everything's more relaxed. That's what we were talking before. We have to be careful with international differences and respect. What's nice for you, and we were talking about the vocabulary of that guide you told us in Poland, what it's probably nice to you might be so offensive for another person. And something I have realized is how the distance you have to keep with the people changes depending on the country. Mediterranean countries used to be closer, but I still remember I began to talk to a Japanese guide. She was a girl. She was there, and I was trying to go like this, and she went, and we began to talk in here, and we finished here. Like 10 minutes later, because I was moving unconsciously, and she was doing the same behind, because she was actually looking for her comfort distance, and I was looking for my comfort distance. So these are things you should you should look for when you are doing a tour, and also many differences of traditions and way of behaving in one country or the other. So you should observe very much and try to behave as people suppose you should behave. That's very important. No matter they are in your country, I think that you should have a little respect to the people you are treating with. That's very important. More and more important to be able to deal with guests with special needs, especially handicapped people, all people who walk very slow. We've got so many different people with special needs, not only physical or mental special cares, but people who probably need more attention than other people in groups. That's very important too. And we need to be flexible, which is, I could link this with, you need to be patient and flexible. Flexibility has to do with the patient too. We should know more than the standard script. I mean, you should be ready in all times to answer every single question from the people. So that's, to me, one of the main differences between an average guide and a good guide. if you have your script and you know what you have to say, you have the great danger of being asked by somebody and you don't know what to say. That's a sin for a guide. You should always be ready for all kinds of questions, sometimes too personal too, but again, smile is perfect.
And if you don't know the answer,
I just say I don't know it.
you say that.
I do. And people really appreciate that rather than if you tell a lie. I prefer to be honest. If you don't know it, you don't know it. That's all. You shouldn't know everything. But you should ready to answer, let's say, 95% of questions you've got. I mean, you are not the British encyclopedia. But when you don't know it, you better say, I don't know. Or now you say, wait, I have my very good friend Google. And you look it up in Google. That's all. Don't do it many times because it doesn't... It's not that nice, but just in case you've got your telephone in your pocket. Now, 18 years ago, that wasn't possible. Adjusting for spontaneous moments and using a different approach for every single guest. That's something we've said before. Again, every person is different, and you should be skillful enough to adapt for every single guest, especially, and that's very important, when you've got private tours with 1-2 people. Those are probably the ones who require more effort from your side, because somebody who's actually having your services and they're just one couple, that means that they need or they want somebody for themselves and they are really interested in with what you are doing. So that's one of the occasions where standard script doesn't work at all, because they need everything you might imagine. That's very important. What else? That's the key to success too, with patience to me, to have a good sense of humor. Being a serious guide telling the same thing like with a face like that is not funny for people who are most of the time traveling for having a good time. So good sense of humor also helps for many things. So no one wants a dry, boring, humorless history lesson. If you want something like that, you go to the university. Although there are teachers who are really good, but it's true that we are not history teachers, and we just try to do something more enthusiasm and make feel the guest at ease and happy. I think this is part of the success of your experience. Not only what you can tell to people, but also that at the end they can think we had a great time visiting this city or this monument. I think that's essential, and that makes a difference between an average or bad touristic experience and a good one.
And I think this is a good way to the other people say to their friends they are not going to go and to ask for a certain tourist, a certain tour guide.
Well, actually, I tell you something. I've been doing a night tour in my hometown from 2010, which is a night tour with stories about the city. We've got troubadours in the city telling stories combined with tourist information. And we have a great feedback in TripAdvisor, for example, and there are many people calling us and they want to make the tour because they have read or something has told them that they had a great time during our tour. I think it's very important.
What I'm saying is, do you want to be a guide with you or with other people?
Well, in this case, it's because of what we do together, but I can tell you from my experience that there are many travel agencies, big companies in Spain, who have a sort of, how do you say, sorry?
Blacklist?
No, they have an internal internet network, and through the different travel agencies of the same brand all over Spain, I'm going to send a group to Cáceres. Do you know a good guide in there? And if they have a good feedback from you, they will recommend you and not anyone else. So that helps too. I think that in this work, if you are a good guide, this is what we say in Spain, mouth-ear. That's like a snowball. it goes on and it becomes bigger and bigger, and that helps.
And that has happened to you too.
Well, yeah, in a way, yes.
Okay.
Actually, I'm very lucky because I work with many companies, and those companies work with me and they want to work back with me, which is an honor. So, but you know, I think that part of the secret has to do with the fact of being freelance. The fact of depending on what you do every single day for earning your living makes you to be alert and trying to do your best every single day. If I were a guide belonging to an organization, like in Spain we've got many tour guides belonging to the city council or the regional government, and they have a fixed salary at the end of the month, believe me, at the end, you know you're gonna receive the same money, the same amount of money, and you don't make any effort because your incomes don't belong to what you do every single day. So I think that for us it's nothing really stable. It's, I mean, being a freelance with low season, high season, it makes your work like a little bit stressful. But at the end, I think it's great for the one receiving the service because it requires the best from you, and that's great for the service received by the people. So I think that's great. It's not that good for me, but at the end, you get used to work with that standard. That's all. Yes, you were gonna say, oh.
I was thinking, so you really are in this kind of situation that you have to earn more during summer to survive in winter?
Well, in the area where I live, we've got two really high seasons, March, April, May, and June. Then July and August, it goes down a little bit. And then September, October, November, and the beginning of December.
It's a long season.
It is quite a long season, yeah.
Because usually it's not like that.
Yeah, but I work in an area where winters are not very cold. So that helps people to encourage to come over. It is true that in summer it gets so hot. That's why July is so low. And that's why I can be here today. That's one of the reasons I can be here. But I mean, in a way that helps because they're really intense months. Actually, I can tell you that in the last, March, April, May, and June, I can tell you that I could have completely free days, 4. I could have a morning free, an afternoon free, but there were days I began to work at 10 in the morning and I finished at 11 p.m. in the evening. So having these gaps in the middle helps a lot to relax a little bit and change this suicide way of working. But we are like the ants and the grasshopper, that we have to work a lot in summer for when winter comes, which is so hard, so as to say in a way. But that's great, because at the end, you work if you want to. Now I'm beginning to, after 18 years of working freelance, now I'm beginning to learn how to say no, which is one of our great problems. We should learn to say no sometimes and think that you have a life, you have friends, you have a family, and you need to have a rest too, because at the end, believe me, it's not good for your health. So you should stop and know how to stop. And that took me like 15 years to learn how to say no and say, okay, there's nothing happens if I say no and I have a rest one day. Probably I'm going to earn 200, 300 euros less, but it's going to be good for my health and my mental health too. So that's something that it's hard. And I've been talking to many people working in the same as I do, and they say the same. We arrive to one point where you should learn how to say no and stop a little bit, and that's very important too.
You say we need to rest from the tour guides
You have to learn how to, for example, at the beginning of the season and say, okay, I'm going to be one day off a week for myself, for having a rest. And you should learn to do that. That sometimes it's not possible, because that's another thing. There are many companies working with you, and they said, if it's not you doing the tour, I know I don't want anyone else. So you've got like the moral commitment with the people to do that tour. And it's not that easy sometimes, but if you can stop for a while and yeah, you can do it. You were going to say something? No?
It has been answered, I think.
Okay, great. So, good sense of humor. Sometimes when the situation is too tense, it helps to cut tensions that may arise in the group, because we also know that not all the groups know each other. I mean, there are many groups coming, everyone from a different place, and sometimes group doesn't match and fit very well. So those good sense of humor moments might help to cut those tension moments you usually have in your work.
I have a question, sorry.
Yes, sure.
How do you deal with the difficult clients? The clients who are a bit...
With a beautiful and big smile,
Okay.
and thinking inside, it's going to be 2 hours, 3 hours, and then he's gone.
Okay,
So
so
you
just
say you
politely...
went to be with, sorry,
Yeah.
to be with him, and you know, okay,
Hypocrite.
after you will go and then see that.
If you go to the same level as him, you are lost. So you should go down, and he himself will show the way he is to the rest of the people, so you are the winner.
So you will be out of the group.
No, not at all.
I don't say out of the group, but you will seem bad to the.
No, but you know, this kind of people, at the end, they throw himself into a very deep hole themselves. They are so stupid that at the end they are the same ones shoveling their grave and throwing them inside. You just have to put the earth back and he's buried. So no problem, but always
So you just smile and you don't give any attention to what...
you know, I do like Spanish toreadors. You do like this, yeah, and at the end, yeah, that's all. I mean, but you have to, again, if you go to his level, you are lost. So you should be wise enough to bullfight. Yeah, that's it. What many people tell me, what's read the room? Well, you should know what kind of people you've got in the groups. Not two tours are the same. Not two circuits are the same. So again, you have to read the room and see what kind of people you've got on that room and behave after what they need, or just to try to make things easier depending on the group you've got. And obviously adapting to the tour accordingly to how they are. Again, you shouldn't be like a tape that you always say the same thing with the same tone, with the same vocabulary, always adapting to the people you've got in the group, listening and understanding what the group needs. I think that's the key to success in a tour that you do with people. Again, no one-way thing. It should be interaction, feedback from the people to make people feel at ease during the tour. Because interactive relationship is the most important one, and not, as I just told you, just one-way tour. I think that's something that doesn't work actually. And lastly, a good guide must really love what they are talking about. I think this is the most important thing. The best guides are enthusiasts. You should show what you are showing to people as if you were telling your own life, because that's what the people are looking for. I think that makes a difference. Don't sound that is you have said the same thing over and over again. That's what I told you at the beginning. It should seem as if you were telling that thing for the first time, because everyone is probably the first time they come with you, so they don't know what you have said the day before. And loving and knowing a lot about a place adds a new dimension to the experience. That's something I was talking to somebody this afternoon. I think it was with you that I don't remember well. I was talking to somebody we've got a lot of people now with the European law. Any guide in Europe can guide anywhere in Europe. And that's something. I was talking to that with somebody, I don't remember who. Was it you? Yeah, it was you. Yeah, and I was telling him that what a local know about the place, because they've been living there, no one is going to tell you the place where you are. So I think that's what makes a difference between a guide who knows the city because they've read something about the city, and somebody who has been living always there and they feel, know and love the city more than anyone coming from outside. And that was the end. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to share with you my work experience. I hope you liked it. Thank you.